But this story begins 27 years earlier, the day my parents decided I was the disposable daughter. My name is Dr. Nora Mitchell and I'm the daughter nobody talks about. Growing up in our Philadelphia suburb, I learned early that academic achievement without social grace is just an embarrassment to parents who value image over substance. My younger sister Kristen was their pride. Cheerleader, pageant winner, the kind of girl who knew how to work a room and make everyone fall in love with her. I was the one who spent lunch periods in the library, who won math competitions nobody attended, who asked questions that made family friends uncomfortable at dinner parties. When Kristen barely graduated high school with a 2.7 GPA, my parents threw her a party at the country club with a string quartet and champagne. When I graduated valedictorian with perfect SAT scores and acceptance letters from 7 Ivy League schools, they took me to Olive Garden and spent dinner talking about Kristen's plans to attend community college for cosmetology. Not everyone needs a fancy degree, Mom said, twirling pasta on her fork. Kristen has emotional intelligence. That's what really matters in life. The message was clear. I had books. Kristen had everything that actually counted. I went to Princeton on a full scholarship. Pre-med. I worked in research labs, volunteered at free clinics, studied until my vision blurred. I graduated summa cum laude with honors in molecular biology. My parents didn't come to graduation. Kristen had a crisis, involving a breakup that required their immediate attention. I stood alone in my cap and gown watching families celebrate and told myself I didn't need them. My achievements spoke for themselves. Medical school at Penn was brutal. I worked as a phlebotomist on weekends, studied through the night, survived on 4 hours of sleep and black coffee. I graduated in the top 3% of my class. My parents sent a card that said, "Congratulations, Dr. Nora," with no personal message inside. Kristen, meanwhile, had dropped out of cosmetology school after 6 months. She worked as a receptionist briefly, then became a wellness coach, which meant she posted inspirational quotes on Instagram and sold overpriced protein shakes. She lived in an apartment my parents paid for, drove a car they leased, and spent her days at hot yoga and bottomless mimosa brunches. What my parents didn't know was that I'd been quietly supporting Kristen too. When her credit cards maxed out at $22,000, I paid them off. When she got into a car accident without insurance and faced a $9,000 bill, I handled it. When she needed her teeth fixed after neglecting them for years, I covered the $11,000 in dental work. Over 8 years, I'd silently given her $89,000. She never acknowledged it. Never said thank you. I never expected her to. That's what I thought family meant. You give without keeping score, you help without recognition, you just love people anyway. After residency, I joined Philadelphia General Hospital as an attending physician in emergency medicine. But my real passion was trauma surgery. I completed a fellowship, published research on emergency surgical interventions, presented at national conferences. At 32, I was appointed director of trauma surgery, one of the youngest department heads in the hospital's history. My department handled the most critical cases in the region. Gunshot wounds, car accidents, industrial injuries. We saved lives every single day. My team won awards. My protocols were adopted by hospitals across the country. I was interviewed by medical journals, invited to speak at Johns Hopkins and Mayo Clinic. My mother's response when I mentioned my department head appointment: "That's nice, honey. Did you see Kristen's new Instagram reel? She's partnering with a major supplement brand." I stopped sharing my victories. I learned to carry them like secrets I kept even from myself. Last year, Kristen started dating Dr. Marcus Webb. He was a cardiovascular surgeon at the same hospital where I worked, though we'd never crossed paths professionally. He worked in the cardiac wing. I ran trauma in the ER. Different worlds, different floors. Handsome, successful, from old Philadelphia money. Kristen couldn't stop talking about him. "He's incredible," she gushed at family dinner. "He went to Stanford for undergrad and Yale for med school. He does open heart surgery. He saves lives every single day." Dad nodded approvingly. Finally, Kristen's found someone with real credentials. Someone worthy of her. I sat across the table, cutting my chicken into small bites, saying nothing. I'd learned that silence was safer than pointing out that Kristen had been telling Marcus she ran a successful wellness consultancy, when she actually hawked diet shakes to teenagers on TikTok. Over the following months, I heard endless stories about Marcus. The charity galas. The medical society dinners. The ski trip to Aspen. When he proposed with a ring that cost more than I made in 6 months, my parents threw them an engagement celebration that made Kristen's high school graduation party look modest. Our baby is marrying a surgeon, Mom said, tears in her eyes. She's really made something of herself. I was sitting right there. A surgeon. A department head. Someone who'd actually built a career saving lives. But I was invisible as always. The engagement party was set for a Saturday evening at my parents' home in Chestnut Hill. A restored Victorian they'd bought with a $180,000 gift I'd given them 5 years ago, though they'd never acknowledged my contribution. 46 people were invited. Extended family friends, Kristen's influencer friends, my parents' social circle. And Marcus would be there. I'd be meeting my sister's fiancé properly for the first time. I drove from my apartment in Center City in my practical Subaru, wearing a simple navy dress and pearl studs, professional but unremarkable. Nothing that would draw attention. I'd perfected the art of existing without being seen. The house glowed with string lights and late autumn flowers. Inside, champagne flowed and guests mingled in rooms decorated like a Pottery Barn catalog. Everything looked perfect, polished, expensive. Kristen stood in the center of the living room in a blush-colored dress that probably cost what I donated monthly to the free clinic. Marcus beside her in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. They looked like they'd stepped out of a pharmaceutical ad. Beautiful, successful, untouchable. I slipped in quietly, hung my coat and headed toward the kitchen to help with anything that needed doing. My usual role. Nora. Mom's voice cut across the conversations. Come meet Marcus. I turned. 46 pairs of eyes swiveled toward me. The familiar weight of unwanted scrutiny settled on my shoulders. I walked over. Marcus extended his hand, his smile genuine and warm. Nora, great to finally meet you. Kristen talks about you. I shook his hand, wondering what version of me Kristen had presented. Nice to meet you. Marcus is chief of cardiovascular surgery, Kristen said, her voice carrying that edge it always had when introducing me to someone impressive. The edge that said, look what I caught, look what you'll never have. Congratulations on the engagement, I said neutrally. Thank you. He studied my face with mild curiosity. Kristen mentioned you work in healthcare? Before I could answer, Kristen laughed. That bright, performative laugh that always preceded cruelty. Nora? She's had a hard time finding her path actually. Still kind of figuring things out. I'm sorry to hear that, Marcus said, his expression shifting to polite concern. The medical field can be tough to break into. Mom materialized beside me, her hand landing on my shoulder with that dismissive pat I knew too well. Nora's always been the struggling one. Not focused like Kristen. She's tried a few things here and there but nothing's really stuck. She's basically directionless, Dad added, joining our circle with a scotch in hand. We keep hoping she'll find something stable but... He shrugged. Not everyone has drive. I felt the familiar burn in my chest. The weight of 46 people witnessing my public diminishment. Marcus's brow furrowed. But you said you work in healthcare? She volunteers sometimes, Kristen said quickly. At free clinics and things. It's sweet but it's not exactly a career. I see, Marcus said slowly. Then almost to himself, Nora Mitchell. That name sounds familiar. Common name, Kristen said breezily. Anyway, Marcus, tell everyone about the surgery you did last week. No, wait. Marcus pulled out his phone. Give me a second. He tapped something into his screen. His expression changed, confusion shifting to recognition, then to something that looked like shock. Nora Mitchell, he said quietly, staring at his phone. Philadelphia General Hospital. My heart started hammering. He looked up at me, his eyes wide. You're Dr. Nora Mitchell? Director of Trauma Surgery. The room went completely silent. Even the background jazz from the speaker seemed to fade. Yes, I said quietly. You're the head of trauma? His voice rose slightly. You're the one who developed the rapid hemorrhage control protocol that's being adopted nationwide? I nodded. Wait, what? Kristen's voice came out high-pitched. What are you talking about? Marcus turned his phone screen toward her. Your sister is the director of trauma surgery at Philadelphia General. She's one of the most respected trauma surgeons in the region. That's impossible, Mom said, her face going pale. Nora doesn't, she's not. I am, I said calmly. I reached into my purse and pulled out my hospital ID badge. The one I wore every day. The one that said, Dr. Nora Mitchell, Director of Trauma Surgery, in clear black letters. I walked over to Marcus and held it out to him. He took it, examined it, then looked at me with something like awe. We work at the same hospital. How have I never seen you? Different departments. Different floors. Trauma is in the ER. Cardio is upstairs. But I've heard about you, he said, scrolling through something on his phone. You were featured in JAMA last year. Your research on emergency surgical interventions in penetrating trauma. I cited it in a paper. I remember that paper, I said. Marcus turned to Kristen, then to my parents. His expression was shifting from shock to something harder. You told me Nora was directionless. You said she was struggling to find stable work. We didn't know, Kristen started. You told me you were the only successful one in your family, Marcus continued, his voice careful and controlled. You said Nora volunteers at clinics because she couldn't hack it professionally. I didn't know she was a surgeon. Kristen's voice cracked. She's a department head at one of the best hospitals in Philadelphia, Marcus said. You work at the same hospital I do and you didn't know? She never told me. Did you ever ask? I said quietly. The question hung in the air like smoke. Marcus looked at my parents. You called your daughter directionless. A department head. A published researcher. A trauma surgeon. We didn't know about any of that, Dad said defensively. Because you never asked, Marcus said flatly. He looked at me. Dr. Mitchell, I apologize. Your family grossly misrepresented you. I pulled out another document from my purse. I'd brought it because some part of me knew this moment would come. Bank statements. Highlighted transfers. While we're clarifying things, I said, placing the pages on the coffee table, these show $89,000 in transfers to Kristen over 8 years. Credit cards, car accident, dental work, rent assistance, emergency loans. I pulled out another page. And this shows the $180,000 down payment I gave Mom and Dad for this house. Marcus picked up the documents. Read them. His jaw tightened. You've been supporting your family financially, he said. Yes. While they called you directionless. Yes. He turned to Kristen. When he spoke, his voice was ice. What else did you lie about? I didn't lie. Tears started forming in Kristen's eyes. I just didn't know. They told me Nora was struggling. Your sister is a trauma surgeon, Marcus said slowly, carefully. She runs a department. She saves lives. She's published in major medical journals. And you never once thought to ask about her work? To Google her name? To show even basic interest in her life? Kristen's mouth opened. Closed. No sound came out. Marcus looked at my parents. You told me Kristen was the accomplished daughter. The one who'd really made something of herself. She has, Mom said weakly. She has 200,000 followers. She sells diet shakes on Instagram, Marcus said bluntly. While her sister saves people from dying. He pulled the engagement ring from his pocket. Set it on the table next to my bank statements. I need to speak with you, Kristen. Outside. Now. They walked out onto the back porch. Through the French doors I could see them. Marcus's posture rigid, Kristen gesturing frantically, her face crumbling. The living room remained frozen in absolute silence. 46 people stood processing what they'd just learned. My Aunt Helen spoke first. Nora, you're a surgeon? A department head. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? I tried. Multiple times. No one was interested. 15 minutes later I checked my watch. Marcus came back inside. Alone. Kristen remained on the porch, her shoulders shaking with sobs. He walked directly to me. Dr. Mitchell, I apologize again. And I wanted to let you know, I ended the engagement. I blinked. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. His voice was firm. I can't marry someone who built our entire relationship on lies. She told me she ran a successful business. She told me she was the successful sister who'd been helping you financially. She told me you were the one who needed support. He shook his head. None of it was true. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be. You saved me from a catastrophic mistake. He paused. Your work is remarkable. The medical community is lucky to have you. Your family should be incredibly proud. Thank you. He nodded and walked toward the door. Stopped. Turned back to my parents. You raised an extraordinary daughter who saves lives every day. And you called her directionless. His voice was quiet but cutting. That says everything about you and nothing about her. He left. The door closed with a soft click that echoed like thunder. Kristen came inside, mascara streaming down her face, her perfect party ruined. Mom rushed to comfort her, shooting me a look of pure venom. How could you? Mom hissed. You've destroyed your sister's happiness. I showed him my hospital ID, I said. That's all. You could have stayed quiet. You could have let her have this. She had everything, I said, my voice steady. Every celebration. Every moment of pride. Every ounce of attention. He had it all while I stayed invisible. I'm done being invisible. Dad stepped forward. You're being selfish. Family supports each other. Family acknowledges each other, I said. Family doesn't lie about each other. Family doesn't call each other directionless while taking their money. I grabbed my coat. I'm leaving. Where are you going? Kristen sobbed. Home. To my directionless life. Where I'll continue running a trauma department, saving lives, teaching residents, and building the career you all pretended didn't exist. I walked out into the Philadelphia night, leaving behind the champagne, the engagement party, the family that never saw me. That night my phone exploded. Mom calling me cruel. Dad saying I'd always been jealous. Relatives taking sides. Kristen sending desperate messages begging me to call Marcus and fix this. I blocked them all. 2 days later an email from Marcus appeared. Dr. Mitchell, thank you for your honesty. Your family's treatment of you is unconscionable. I hope you know your work is valued even if not by them. I've recommended you for the hospital's Distinguished Physician Award. You deserve recognition. Best wishes, Marcus. A week later, I received notification that I'd been selected to lead a new regional trauma center, a $15 million facility that would serve 3 states. My salary increased to $620,000 annually. My parents never called to congratulate me. Here's what I learned that night. Some families need you to be directionless because your success exposes their shallow values. They need you to struggle so they can feel superior. They need you to be nobody so their favorites can be somebody. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply show your ID badge. One credential. One moment of truth. I didn't destroy Kristen's engagement. Her lies did. My parents' years of dismissing me did. Their refusal to see what was right in front of them did. I just stopped pretending it was okay. If you've ever been called directionless while saving lives, if you've been dismissed by people who should celebrate you, if you've stayed silent while lies were told about your career, know this. Your silence doesn't protect them. It just teaches them they can erase you. The truth will always surface. Sometimes it just needs one person to check their hospital database. I chose truth. I chose myself. And that's not selfish. That's survival. Sometimes all it takes is one ID badge. 15 minutes. And everything built on lies collapses.